I have an inspiration. Overwhelming.
Okay, no more shenanigans.
Howard Hawks made some of the most purely pleasurable movies in the history of cinema.
You're good. You're awful good.
He wasn't particularly interested in beautiful images or fancy camera work. He wasn't really interested in social issues or history, politics, religion. He was interested in people and the way they behave and interact within the worlds he created.
Watch carefully, Joe. We're turning on the lights.
Come on, Mike.
Hawks had a long and successful career in Hollywood. He was one of the key American filmmakers championed by the young critics of Cahiers du Cinéma, who were the first to take Hawks seriously as an artist, rather than seeing him just as a maker of popular entertainments. Hawks is a perfect poster boy for the auteur, the filmmaker who injects a personal touch into all of his films. Because, like Alfred Hitchcock, he is also one of a handful of filmmakers whose names have become adjectives. When you say Hawksian, you might think of camaraderie in a male group engaged in some dangerous profession. But to me, Hawksian also suggests a stylization of behavior, the way his characters are always performing for each other and appraising each other's performances and facing tests that they have to pass in order to be accepted by a group or by another person. The real subject of Hawks's films is the way people bond through these shared ideals of behavior. Ideals that have something to do with courage and reliability and integrity, but also with getting the joke, making an entrance, looking good when you light your cigarette.
Fun, 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 fun.
And he was devoted to recurring themes, mainly the dynamics of groups under pressure and the sparring between men and women.
What do you want, Scorpion?
If it makes you any happier to call me names, go ahead.
Oscar, you're complete. The most horrible excuse for a human being that ever walked on two legs.
Hawks directed his first feature film in 1926 and his last in 1970. So his career spanned the whole of the classic Hollywood studio era. He was a contemporary of John Ford, William Wellman, Alfred Hitchcock, Frank Capra, Leo McCarey, all born in the 1890s, all started their careers in the silent era. Hawks was somewhat unusual in that he came from a wealthy and patrician background in Indiana, rather than being from a working-class immigrant background or being an emigre like Hitchcock or Lubitsch or Wyler. And that background may have contributed to the extreme self-confidence that Hawks had throughout his career. Hawks was very protective of his independence, which was important because of the way that he worked. He liked to improvise and rewrite scripts during the shooting, which studio executives usually frowned on. Most of his films are genre movies, and they're often both archetypal and influential, and they often blend genres. For instance, there's almost always some element of comedy, usually some element of romance, even in his westerns or action films. The most radical thing is his lack of interest in story, because story was usually considered central and sacrosanct in the classical Hollywood film. Over the course of his career, Hawks got bolder and bolder about paring the plot back to the bare minimum. And what plot there is really a background framework for the scenes that he wants to include. So with Rio Bravo, we never really know anything about the killing that is the catalyst for the story, nor does it really matter. It's just the thing that brings this small group of people together.
Sometimes I know exactly what you're going to say. Most of the time.
The other times? The other times, you're just a stinker.
If anyone is new to Howard Hawks, I think there's no better place to start than with To Have and Have Not, famously the film on which Humphrey Bogart and Lauren Bacall met and fell in love.
Sure you won't change your mind about this?
Uh-huh.
It is the perfect blend of comedy and romance and action.
It's a story of a very unfortunate
It is very loosely based on a novel by Ernest Hemingway, updated to World War II and borrowing liberally from Casablanca in its exotic setting in Martinique, and a plot about Vichy authorities and Free French resistance fighters. But all of that is just a backdrop to the quintessential Hawks family group, as it's been called, revolving around a rugged, cynical, but very competent hero, his loyal sidekicks, and a woman who arrives on the scene and threatens his independence.
I thought you said she pulled out.
I thought she did.
To Have and Have Not also features arguably the greatest exemplar of the Hawks woman, one of the most distinctive elements of his films. She is bold and wisecracking, usually a woman who is on her own in the world, often some kind of itinerant entertainer or gambler who has to hold her own in male-dominated spaces. She has a distinctive look, very often wearing checked or striped suits with masculine tailoring. And her defining characteristic is that she goes on the offensive and pursues a man who typically is coy and plays hard to get. Hawks's dream was always to find an unknown actress and mold her into this ideal woman. And his greatest success was with Lauren Bacall. She was only 19 and had never appeared in a movie before To Have and Have Not, and she became a huge star overnight. It's a sublime performance, and she's funny and sexy and totally distinctive. And the fact that we can detect that her bravado is a performance, that both her character, Marie or Slim, and Bacall herself are putting on this act to cover up their nerves and insecurity, actually enhances the effect as we admire her and root for her to pull it off. There has been a lot of debate and controversy about the Hawks woman. You can say that women in his films are required to act like men in order to be accepted into a male group, that there is a rejection of conventional femininity, and that his women rarely have many interests or goals aside from men. On the other hand, he also rejects the convention that women are passive prizes to be won by men. Instead, they have to prove that they can relate to men on some plane of equality.
Drum boogie, drum boogie. It really is a killer.
Musical interludes are particularly important in Hawks's films, and the best ones are often casual and intimate. Even when they are performing for an audience, there's a sense of social bonding. There's also a musical quality about the treatment of dialogue.
His name Bone?
Well, of course it isn't Bone. Ah, you mean to say you don't remember Jerry the Nipper?
Which is often more about creating a certain sound than it is about meaning or exposition.
Get on any other paper and you know it. We're a team, that's what we are. You need me and I need you and the paper needs both of us.
American!
Hawks's films are talky in the best possible way. They're about people sharing a common language, a particular slangy American vernacular full of comebacks and put-downs and sometimes kind of absurdist non sequiturs. In his early sound films, Hawks was a pioneer of natural, fast-paced, overlapping dialogue at a time when many films used over-enunciated theatrical pacing.
For Well, what are you doing there? Haven't you even started?
Hello, Eddie. Hildy Johnson. Was there an old lady brought in there from the North last
And there's a playfulness and a relishing of language, which you find in many of his comedies. Hawks was one of the architects of the screwball comedy, which is a particular brand of romantic comedy that's fueled by combative and zany energy.
What's Rembrandt up to?
His film 20th Century was one of several films from 1934 that kicked off the screwball cycle.
That'll teach you to go around saying things about people.
Bringing Up Baby was not a success at the time, but is now celebrated as the screwiest of all screwball comedies. It's the most unabashedly silly, the most enchantingly anarchic.
Sing, David. I can't give you anything but love.
It's hard for me to pick a favorite Hawks film, but I have a special love for His Girl Friday.
What do you want?
Your ex-wife is here. Do you want to see her?
It's a rare film about a man whose love for a woman is subordinate to his admiration for her professional talents. Many of Hawks's films are about work and the idea of professionalism. The job always comes first, and people's identities are tied up with their profession.
Never mind that. What's the story?
Well, just a minute and I'll give you the story. But I'm telling you first, I had to give him all the money I had on me, and it wasn't exactly mine.
And here, that is equally true of the woman as of the man.
Listen, little boy. In this business, there's only one law you gotta follow to keep out of trouble. Do it first, do it yourself, and keep on doing it.
Hawks himself always said that his favorite of his own films was Scarface, one of the most influential of all gangster films. But another crime drama that he made just before it, The Criminal Code from 1931, is also worth a look. It's a prison film, more concerned with social and moral issues than a lot of his later films. And both with Scarface and The Criminal Code, you can see that Hawks at this period in his career was more open to visual and audio virtuosity and experimentation than he became later. In the peak of his career, he adopted a very plain, unadorned style, eye-level camera, unobtrusive cutting, and lighting. He was among the filmmakers who really believed that the audience should not notice the direction. That would be a distraction from their relationship with the movie. But in these early films, we see expressionist lighting and montage, very creative use of sound, and also an intense, heightened emotion that would largely disappear from his later films. Of Hawks's Westerns, a lesser-known one that I really like is The Big Sky from 1952. It's in some ways a companion piece to the much better-known Red River from 1948. They both follow a journey through the wilderness, a cattle drive in Red River, and in The Big Sky, a journey up the Missouri River. They are both essentially love stories between two men. And they both present a conflict between a more sensitive, gentle, enlightened man and a more traditionally hard-headed and violent man.
That ain't no way to treat nobody. Give me that whip.
But I think that the treatment of the relationship in The Big Sky is even subtler and more complex and mature than in Red River.
Let go.
David, are you all right?
Hawks's films are also very star-driven. He had important ongoing relationships with certain actors, which were genre-specific. Cary Grant for comedies, Bogart for crime dramas and hard-boiled action films, and John Wayne for westerns. He gave Wayne his first more challenging and ambivalent role in Red River, allegedly influencing John Ford to realize that Wayne could actually act.
Well, we start tomorrow. We're going to Missouri with 10,000 head.
Each of these actors is quite different. Bogart and Grant represent two sides of Hawks's films. cool competence and graceful professionalism with Bogart, and frenetic energy and flustered breakdowns with Cary Grant. And they're somehow both equally essential to the Hawksian style. Hawks was always involved in shaping and rewriting the scripts of his films, and he worked repeatedly with writers that he trusted. Ben Hecht had a key role in writing Scarface. He also wrote 20th Century and the source material for His Girl Friday. Jules Furthman, who was also the primary writer for Joseph von Sternberg, worked on Only Angels Have Wings, To Have and Have Not, The Big Sleep. Furthman was a veteran, but Hawks gave Lee Brackett the opportunity to work on The Big Sleep at a time when she had very little experience working in film. He had read a hard-boiled detective story that she wrote, and he thought she was a man. But they really hit it off, and she wound up co-writing Rio Bravo and several more of Hawks's later films. Apparently, on The Big Sleep, Bogart was surprised to discover that she wrote better tough guy dialogue than either of her male co-writers, and he started going to her and asking her to punch up his lines.
I don't like people who play games. Tell your boss.
Hawks was a popular filmmaker who always insisted that he was an entertainer and that he made films for the public, not for his own pleasure. His films represent an ideal of movie watching as a social activity. His films never get old. They are films you want to return to again and again.